having a strong partnership, I think might be the most important thing in starting a business. You can start solo. I don't know what it looks like, so I won't speak on it. I will say I think it's a lot harder, and I think it's a lot lonelier starting a business by yourself.
How much of it was delusion versus that confidence in what you were doing?
I don't know what the actual percentage number is, but I do think you have to have a good, healthy amount of both. Like, you need to have confidence, and then you also need delusion to like not think of like all of the barriers to entry and like all of the reasons why it would fail. But the confidence is what's going to make you actually like put pen to paper and like turn the delusion into like progress. Do you have a good safety net behind you? I think some people like might have to pay the bills. They might have to pay college. They might have to do XYZ, and that puts them in a position where they have to focus on getting the money first. Because when you start a business, you shouldn't expect to make money in the first like 5 years, really. And so you need to like schedule that in your brain of like, okay, can I survive for the next 5 years not making any money or doing odd jobs on the side and just making ends meet? And if you're like, okay, I'm excited still with this business and with this idea, go for it.
George, CEO, founder, Buffs, welcome to No Permission Podcast. Super excited to have you. As you know, this podcast is all about talking to founders, people that are envisioning themselves as entrepreneurs one day, and you are the living embodiment of what that means. Quick background. I mean, you started Buffs as a junior in college, you and your co-founder, 2 different states, childhood, best friends, started this company from an idea, and now you guys are you've raised a ton, you're about to launch the product, you've gotten thousands of pre-orders. Like, let's start from the beginning though. Like, way before Buffs, like you and Beckett, how did you guys meet? Where did you guys grow up? And like, what was that environment like?
Yeah, well, first of all, thanks for having me on, Daniel. I mean, this is, I wish I had this when I was a sophomore or junior in college. I think we were listening to Guy Raz podcasts back then, which is amazing, by the way. Like, everyone loves those, but it's harder because they don't really go that deep into the early days. They try, but it's very easy to be like, going into the early days when they're like doing 5 to 10 million revenue. Like that's still not the early days. So, thanks for having me on. I will say we are still very early, still a lot to learn. And so I think I can give a lot in terms of like, what are the first 2 years of starting a business might look like. But yeah, I think Daniel, we were talking about this before we even hopped on here, is like having a strong partnership, I think might be the most important thing in starting a business. You can start solo. I don't know what it looks like, so I won't speak on it. I will say I think it's a lot harder, and I think it's a lot lonelier starting a business by yourself. And so growing up, it wasn't like when we found each other, when we started this business together, it wasn't like, oh, that you're the perfect fit. It was just like we were together at the same time when this product idea came to birth, and it was just natural for us to start together. But I do think growing up, we had very similar morals, values, and beliefs. Both grew up in a Christian family. Church was a big part of our life. It wasn't super important to us in the middle school, high school days, but when we got to college, we actually went to a summer camp sophomore year of summer. And for most people, that would be berserk. Like going to a summer program for 8 weeks to essentially work at a Popeyes or a Taco Bell. Everyone would get these jobs in Orlando, right? And so you only have like 1 week to find a job. So you're not getting a nice job. You're getting a Popeyes, a Disneyland job, whatever it is. And you're essentially giving your whole summer. You could be doing an internship. You could be prepping for your consulting interviews next summer. You could be working at JP Morgan, whatever it is. It was a big risk. And I think that was something that held us together in the very early days. Like having a similar faith and value system means that we really trust each other well. And then on top of that, I think we were very lucky in our parents and our upbringing. Like I will say, like, I don't know how much of that actually has to do with being successful. But we're very lucky. My family, Chinese immigrant parents, worked very, very hard, was super supportive and loving of me always. And, wasn't a dysfunctional family by any means. Obviously had our hardships, but was super supportive. My parents always instilled hard work in me. And I guess I got a lot of competitiveness from that. And that really set me up well for startup. And then Beckett's family, his dad was a very successful entrepreneur. And so there was always this like bug of like doing more than what was like allotted to us. And I think that upbringing, along with all the stuff we can talk about later, in just terms of like the health and wellness side of our upbringing that we were so focused on, really like made a perfect birthplace for like this product specifically in the company that we're running now.
And I love that. I mean, when, if either for both of you or together, like, was there always that itch to go build something, or,
Yeah.
or
Yeah.
were your parents or his family kind of pushing you guys to get a traditional career? Because I think that's often a crossroads for people, right?
Yeah.
Of like, do I go entrepreneurship and take that risk, or
Yeah.
okay?
It was both. So yes and yes. Like we, growing up, my dad started a business, wasn't successful, but watched him do that. So and then obviously Beckett's dad was, exited his company for, you know, plenty of nine figures and but also spent 25 years building it. And when Beckett was young, it wasn't easy. It was really difficult. So I think that kind of gave us some like understanding of like, oh, this is how this is work. Like starting a business, like running companies work. But as Chinese immigrant parents, and anyone that has immigrant parents listening to this would know, um, the safe route and the best route is always getting a high paying, safe job with a 401k and medical insurance and, projection into a suburban high income lifestyle, because they took the big risk of jumping over here from their country to set up a better life. And the idea of entrepreneurship means a high probability of failure, and therefore high probability of, in their minds, living on the streets and doing a bunch of drugs. I don't know. That's probably what they envision.
That's the story
fallout.
that they've
They're like, oh my gosh, like they're going to be homeless. So that's their natural progression. But I guess going back to, yeah, like we in high school, I built like a DoorDash for food pantries. It's called Pantry Go, and I like built this app. It was more of like I think it was more of a college resume booster at the time, but it was still startup in its own right. So I built that, and we delivered hundreds of pounds of food from food pantries to like a bunch of food insecure people in Orange County, and that was running for like a year and a half. And then Beckett was always doing small businesses. He had like a basketball coaching or training thing on the side. He made like a couple products in his garage that he would try to sell. And so we were always just doing entrepreneurial stuff. But, again, as college and high school, the pressures of like, for me, my family was like always wanting to get Stanford, Ivy League, all those like very, selective colleges. The natural progression was like tech or product management or big tech or consulting or investment banking. And all the peers around you are doing those, and they're excited about their new interview and their new job application, their super day that they got. And you start to get that FOMO of like, I should be doing that too. And that was very much a real pressure. But I think the number one thing advice I would give there is like, you need to be very sure that like on like starting a company and running a business is like what you're fit to do, because it's not above the other ones. It's just a different skill set. Like I actually think it's different. It's like a different risk tolerance. It's a different level of like being able to handle a lot of moving, juggling parts. And it's also like, do you have a good safety net behind you? Because like, if you don't, not that you need to, but I think a lot of successful entrepreneurs didn't have any sort of safety net, but, I think some people like might have to pay the bills. They might have to pay college. They might have to do X, Y, Z. And that puts them in a position where they have to focus on getting the money first. Because when you start a business, you shouldn't expect to make money in the first like 5 years, really. And so you need to like schedule that in your brain of like, okay, can I survive for the next 5 years not making any money or doing odd jobs on the side and just making ends meet? And if you're like, okay, I'm excited still with this business and with this idea, go for it. I didn't know that going into it. So I guess that's kind of hard to say in retrospect. Going into it, I was just like, shoot, what are we to lose? What's to lose? Because in my mind, like if it doesn't work out, we can always like, I think you learn so much faster growing a company. And that was very clear to me because I worked in startup before, and I worked in startup and I also worked in tech, like big tech. And I was like, I saw the difference in like progression I had in the short 3 months here and the short 6 months here. It was way faster, like exponentially in the startup. And so I was like, okay, if we do that and we do it for 2 years or 1 year or 6 months and we don't do there's no reason why we couldn't still get the same job we probably could have got if we started before. And if not, we were a couple months behind, we're a couple years behind. So what? Like we said we tried. Um, and I think I guess that was the confidence I had in myself of like, I'm not worried if I miss out on other, interviews because I know I can get myself back into a good position if I needed to.
And we were talking about this a little before we started recording, and I ask everybody who comes on this, like, how much of it was delusion versus that confidence in what you were doing? And delusion, naivete, just
Yeah, I think I don't know what the actual percentage number is, but I do think you have to have a good, healthy amount of both. Both. I think you have to have a lot of confidence, but you can't be like you need to have confidence, and then you also need delusion to like not think of like all of the barriers to entry and like all of the reasons why it would fail. Um, but the confidence is what's going to make you actually like put pen to paper and like turn the delusion into like progress. So yeah, I don't know. It's like when Guy Raz asked like how much of it was based on luck, how much was based on like hard work. The answer is always both, right? Like it's like the more opportunities you put yourself in, the more luck you'll have. And I think that's the same for like delusion and confidence. Like not exactly the same analogy, but I think the more confidence you have, the more the delusion becomes reality. But you cannot start with just confidence. You need because if you just had confidence, but you looked at it from a logical perspective, you will fail every time. It doesn't make
yeah.
sense. So you need to have some sort of like delusional confidence, I guess you would call it.
Okay, I like that. And so, I mean, that's when if you look at college students, that's what they've got in spades, right? They're typically very highly confident with some like grandiose visions that may not be reality, but like it's a healthy dose of delusion. And so you're in college, you're a junior. So let's start to talk about the founding of Buffs and what it is. But you're a junior. You guys tell us the origin story, and at what point you were like, we're doing this.
It was actually the company started junior year, but the idea started sophomore year. It was 2023 October, I remember, and I remember this vividly. We were in Austin for Austin City Limits, the festival, right? And we just came back from our summer program a couple weeks before, or a couple months before, spent all summer together. And so we were kind of like, we were always talking, even though we didn't go to the same school. He went to TCU, I went to USC. We were still talking weekly on stuff just to catch up, whatever it was, right? Stayed very close. Because we both kind of like changed our lives that summer. Like we took our faith more seriously and we started to become more like, involved in church. And we were in Austin, and we were about to go to the festival for that night. I forgot who was playing that night. Was it Stapleton? I don't know. No, it wasn't Stapleton. I forgot who it was. But we were eating a bowl of chips, and we were like, "Oh, these are so good!" But it's like a bunch of seed oils, and it's just carbs. Even the healthy potato chips, right? Like there's a potato, like it's glucose. And so when you eat a bunch of glucose, people don't know this, but when you eat a bunch of glucose, or a lot of people know this now, but when you eat a bunch of sugar or carbohydrates without fats or protein, you spike your insulin levels, and it actually leaves you feeling more hungry after. And
we all know that feeling eating chips. Oh yeah.
Yeah. Whatever is a big piece of bread, a big meal, super, super carb loaded, you feel tired after. People are like, why do I have this like crash of energy when you're supposed to give you energy? Because it offsets your levels. And so, we knew that sort of, and we were like discussing it. And the family we're staying at, her name's Erica, and she's still very close to us now. Her family's on a carnivore diet at the time, and they were eating these pieces of beef that were for campers. And it was these dry blocks of beef that you would put into boiling water and rehydrate it into like beef chunks for like stew, right? Nobody eats this as a snack. Like zero people eat it as a snack. But they're on a carnivore diet, and we were like, "Do you have any more snacks? Like these potato chips, we crushed them. Like we need more." And she's like, "Oh, like we have this. Like I sometimes snack on this a little bit, but like there's no seasoning. We try it. It's really bad, but it gives us idea of like if this piece of beef is the nutrients of beef, grass-fed beef, or whatever the healthy, the regeneratively raised, it retains 97% of its ingredients. But it's like it's shelf stable. It's on the go. It's kind of like the beef jerky and chomps and beef sticks that everybody's into, but it's crunchy and airy like a potato chip. And we're like, light bulb, like whoa, what if this was like seasoned and it had good texture and it tasted good? This could be huge. And we laughed it off. We're like, nobody's gonna make. How are you supposed to make that? Like that's impossible. but we tinkered on it for another couple months. And I remember 3 months later in
Later in
December,
December,
um, I was
I
actually,
was
so my
actually, so my
ex-girlfriend went to the
ex-girlfriend
same
went.
school that my co-founder went to. And so I was always visiting back and forth. And we just found a reason to like make that we were like, hey, let's go try to make this product. We went on ChatGPT and we're like, how do we make a beef chip? And that was the start. Like in December of 2023, we did our first batch. I think February of 2024, we did our second one. Then we did like two more all the way up until summer. Just us in ChatGPT, us like talking to like whoever we could, be like, hey, like, do you know any food scientists? But we still, again, it was just advice that we never paid for like any type of food scientists. All we had was ChatGPT and
And you
ourselves.
guys are, let me, sorry to interrupt, but you guys are in your
Yeah.
kitchen. When you talk about batches, it's you two
Yeah.
like doing
It
this in the
was
kitchen.
us. So yeah, it's funny. Beckett's family had a place in Austin, like a condo, and we would go there. This is so funny, but we would go there and we would buy the ingredients in the grocery store. We would go to the kitchen, which is like, and it was a small kitchen. We would have all these like different ingredient recipes on in like an Excel sheet or in ChatGPT on Notion, and we would like write out, okay, this one has 15% egg whites. This one has 5% egg whites. This one has this, that, like ChatGPT said to try all these things. And so we'd have chat fill out this trial list. We'd go to the grocery store, buy the ingredients, run the trials. We would take these, like, it was basically at that time, like little cooked patties of beef, which were disgusting. And we would
And we
take
would take
them.
them.
I remember
I
that
remember
first
that
batch
first batch.
we didn't have the machinery we needed, like the drying technology that we needed to run this product. And so we essentially had to go find it from like a friend of a friend. And we went to this random person's house like in the middle, like in Austin at like 11 p.m. and ran our product. And it was just funny because now we're looking at it and like we're making thousands and thousands of product or meatballs, you know, per hour or whatever. But before then, it was just like doing it by hand, and it was just like really hard to figure out.
Okay. And so then you guys are doing this. And so then at what point were you like, yes, we've tinkered, we've got it. Let's go make this a business. We're in school, we're studying, we're trying to get internships and jobs, we're having fun. But you know what we have time for is to start a business.
Yeah. It's a good question. I think that that during that time we were tinkering around with it. Um, we had some like internship. I had like an internship, like I was like helping out one of the VCs with some stuff, and before the couple months before I was working at like a tech startup, Beckett was like applying for like real estate and like some like consulting jobs, like just soon doing some interviews. And eventually we got to the summer of 2024. We went into the kitchen every single day that summer. We went back to that same program called Kaleo, but we would go there to the kitchen, to a commercial kitchen that we rented out in Orlando, like 6 to 8 hours a day. And we would just make product and make a batch. And we did that consistently in like 100-degree Orlando heat. It was terrible. It was like a nightmare, like literally scenes from a nightmare. But we did that consistently for like, I don't know, 50 days straight. And at that point, we were still like not fully confident this was like everything we want to do, but we spent the whole summer doing that. And so at that point, we're like, okay, we missed the opportunity for like a 2024 summer internship. Like we already went deep into that. And then we started to talking about people in the industry, and we started to look at the market, and we saw that like meat snacks and the protein category and GLP-1, everything along with it was like really, really blowing up. And people that like came across this product, they're like, guys, this is one of those products. Like investors were like, this is one of oh, we were too early, obviously, but they were like, this is one of those products that we see every couple years that could be a real big winner. And for us, we're like, oh, really? Wait, I didn't know that. Like, okay, that's cool. But I will say the turning point was in 2025. So up until then, we were still like, I would say still like 80 to 90% in. We were still doing this every single day, but like, it wasn't like completely like drop everything to go. But in 2025, we went to Expo West, which is like the food trade show. And one of our advisors got us pretty much free tickets. And we go there and he introduces us to like the Sprouts buyer. And we came in with like little white packages. It looked like we were like holding weed, like bags of weed. It was just like little, it was so funny because like he gets pit at that show. He had like 100 pitches per day, and he would sit at this Sprouts table and they would be signed up on this list, and they would come give him a 5-minute pitch and hope that he likes their product. we didn't sign up to anything. He was like on a lunch break, and our guy's like, "Hey, come meet this guy." He's like, "What do you want now?" He comes meet us, and he like opens the bag, and there's no, the branding's terrible, and he's like tries it, and he's like, "Guys, this is incredible. Like, we don't see it. We've never seen anything like this. Like, we'd love for you guys to be part of like whatever their rotation is or innovation set." And it was kind of the launch for us of like, oh, like we have some leverage now, and like we know that like people in the industry, like retailers, would really want this product. Now we just have to prove out that people really like this product. So like, might as well go all in. And again, it was always the idea that if it didn't work out, we would have learned exponentially faster growing this business than we would have learned at any other internship or job that we could have gotten during our college years. And so if it doesn't work out, I literally told Beckett this. I remember I was like, I guarantee you that we will find a job in the next 3 months or 6 months, within 6 months of ending the business. And we will find a great job for us, like anywhere. And that was the kind of confidence, delusional confidence that I'm talking about. Like, is that really reality? Maybe not. But like, I had full confidence that we were, like as an entrepreneur, I know the best employees are the people that like are just like entrepreneurs within the company themselves, like they take ownership, and they don't ask, to be led. They just do, and they fail, and they fail fast, and then they try things. And so I was like, well, if that's the case, then why wouldn't anyone want to hire us? You know what I mean? Like, I was like, what, who cares what the experience is? Like, give me a 1 month trial period in your company. I promise you want to keep me around. And that was the confidence I had.
I love that. Anyone who's hired anybody before knows that and would wholeheartedly agree with you. And
Like,
like,
I don't care what you
yeah,
come from. I don't care what school you graduated from. I don't care what your experience is. Like, if you are in my company for 2 or 3 weeks or a month, and you are just absolute killer at whatever I put you on, not because you're good at it, but because you like learn fast, and you try fast, and you ask for help, and you find people resourceful that can help you, and you learn quickly. I don't like, if you have agency, I don't like, I want to keep you around more than anyone else. And so I was just like, well, if that's the logic, then like, why can't I get hired somewhere? You know what I mean? If I
yeah.
if I do
After this, let's make this successful. And if not, then do that.
exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's what that was in my mind.
So let's talk about success. So where are you guys with the
Yeah.
business today?
Yeah. So again, this is why I caveat in the beginning, it took us, a whole year from that 2025 point in March to actually commercialize the product. Like, we were making it out of a kitchen. We were scooping, we were scooping each puff hand by hand. And it was just like this super manual process. And we could only make like maybe 10 bags of product per day. And with any innovative product, especially on the consumer side, it's very hard to find people or the cash or whatever to start to make this product at scale. And so um, we made a lot of mistakes. We spent a lot of time with money and people that couldn't get the job done for us. And so we finally found a manufacturer to be able to produce this product. But they're really the only people in the whole world that can do it right now, currently. And so it's just taking us a long time to get there. We finally, we launched the social media and the pre-orders in like November, December of last year. That's been doing really well. And so I think we've like around 28K followers on Instagram, no marketing spend, no advertising. And so we've found this like ability to generate. I think in today's world, selling to consumers is all about eyeballs, it's all about attention. If you can capture their attention where they spend their most time, which is on social media for Gen Z and Gen Alpha, if you can capture their attention, you can sell to them. But if you can't capture their attention, you can't sell to them anymore. It's different in today's world. And so we were like, oh, we're getting this great traction on social media. People love our product. We're marketing as like a beef Cheeto. If we can create a marketing company and an entertainment company first, and then deliver with a really great product, we can have a great business because we'll have a great customer acquisition strategy, and we can scale that. And so that's what we've been focused on. We've raised, or, I don't know, actually, am I allowed to say how much we've raised? We've raised, a good
You can
amount
say
of money
whatever you want here. No permission.
we raised about $1 million like in the last, couple months. And people are really excited about the product. We have some amazing angel investors. I think I can say this, but Ari Raz started Once Upon a Farm. is now CEO of Coconut Colts. He's one of our investors. Nick Mayer started Kettle and Fire, the best bone broth on the planet. Jordan Brown started Q Chocolate, huge chocolate company, one of the first pioneers of better for you chocolate. And so we've had these incredible angel investors that are seasoned veterans in the space and ex-operators to support us, building a team around us, but we still haven't, we don't have a huge revenue number yet. And so that's the frustrating part, is that our product just takes a really long time to get the supply chain ready for it. But we've done great in pre-orders. Social media is ripping. You know, I don't think when are you actually launching this podcast? We're filming for Shark Tank in a couple weeks. Technically not allowed to tell anyone that, but that's exciting as well. And so, I think the next six months is really just going to be a testament of like, okay, we're setting up all these systems. What are people really going to think about the product? Are they going to repeat purchase? What's the real numbers like, on the e-commerce side, on our customer acquisition cost, on the repeat purchase rate, and like how well does our supply chain hold up, and how can we really get ahead of the gun and make sure that we're set up for success when Shark Tank airs, hopefully, and just all this, growth stage for the next 12 months before we do retail and start to really scale up the business.
And I think a lot of people listening or read headlines, you've raised $1 million, you're going on Shark Tank, you have all these great investors, like everyone's looking at that, and you guys have made it. Are you guys patting yourselves on the back, or like
oh
where?
My gosh,
exactly.
That's so funny.
Where
We're
are you guys?
So far.
Yeah.
We're so far from making. Like it's funny because Beckett's always telling me like, I think obviously Daniel's a close, as a friend, and these podcasts are great, but we have no right to be on a podcast. To be frank, like we haven't. We're still, like we're not paying ourselves, and so like we have very little money in the bank. We are not successful by any means. My parents still look at me and are just like, okay, like when's this gonna work? Like they're still like, they're proud of me, and they're like, oh, we're so glad you love your little beef puff business, and because they don't know what Shark Tank is. They have like, they're so out of the picture. The only thing that they were impressed by was the money we've raised. And then even then they're like, well, like, didn't you give up a bunch of your company? So it's just like, there's no impressing immigrant parents, by the way. But we haven't we're like, I'd say out of 100% of like when we actually make and sell the business, we're probably at like 5. You know what I mean? Like we're at 5 or 10%. And it's like, there's such a big bound to go. But I do think the first 2 to 3 years is the hardest, right? It's like proving product market fit. It's raising money when you have no basis to raise money. Like that, like, it's just like that kind of like, at that point, it's really like, are you the right person to build this business? And that's really hard because sometimes you're not. But when you get to the point where you are the right person to build the business and you stick around long enough and you work through the hard years and you figure out how to pivot your product and get product market fit, that's when the real challenge of like actually scaling this up into something incredible that lasts and is like, potentially an acquisition target down the line, like that is even more of a challenge. But I will say, like, they say 0 to 1's the hardest, and I think that's true. And so I think we're going to, getting close to the 1, but we're not there yet. So we're definitely not patting ourselves on the back by any means. If anything, we're like slapping ourselves in the face because we're just like, wake up, man, wake up.
Oh my God. Yeah. I don't know. I mean, outside looking in, you guys are doing it. And I think, I've talked to friends about this, like luck is all about surface area, and you guys are expanding your surface area and making your own luck. And, I think it's incredible. Switching gears a little bit. I mean, I think people listening to this, like, as you're starting this company, are you looking, like, is there a founder that you're looking at that you admire, or you kind of model your operating philosophies around?
Yeah, that's a great question. I feel like it's a culmination of like everything that I take in, all the podcasts that I listen to, all the advisors and the investors we have. Troy and Winston started Saws. They were one of our first advisors. And so we definitely, on a week-to-week basis, just like always talking, always learning from them. Nick from Kettle and Fire, Ari, Jordan, the Emmy guys, the Noble guys, Brett and Harry, the Operators podcast, something that I listen to twice or 3 times a week. So it's just like a culmination of like these operators in our industry that I look up to. But I think I think the best mentors in my life are not necessarily the business mentors. but like my faith mentors. Like I think that's the most important people that I have in my life, because it's very easy to get very frantic and very crazy in startup and start to lose sight of like the mission and the goal. And when your value is dependent on the success of your business, your emotions get very erratic. And I think the best thing that I've been able, the biggest blessing is like having a solid foundation of faith in my life, to where like if the business doesn't work, I still know that I'm on track, and I still know that I'm valued, and I still know that this is like according to God's plan. And so I'm not, yes, I'm stressed and I'm like wanting to solve things and I'm like hustling, but I have a solid foundation of like baseline like importance and purpose in my life. Um, and so those are the most important mentors that I look up to. And some of them happen to be business owners and successful entrepreneurs. And those are like the ultimate ones for me, that I think like, okay, how do I balance those two things? And then also like, how do I become a business better, operator, which is difficult. So,
Yeah, I mean, I think that is like the culmination, as you're saying, of like just different pieces of business advice and personal advice and all coming together.
yeah.
Um, I guess when you think about like you're in a unique generation, right? Like you're in the AI generation. You just graduated college. Congratulations, fight on. But like like why is Gen Z, Gen Alpha in such a position to succeed today? I think, and I ask this question because I think there's a misconception in market, often by headlines, right? Of like Gen Z, Gen Alpha is just like not built for the business. They're soft, whatever. And talking to founders like you, like it couldn't be further from the truth.
Well, I think there is some truth to that. I think there is some truth. I think it's very easy to get distracted now in today's world, and it's very easy to compare. And I think comparison, it might be not the biggest, but like it's such a big killer for like entrepreneurial spirit and like taking risks, because you see the success of, like, for example, we've raised money, all these great investors, Shark Tank, whatever it is, like it looks like we're crushing it. But when you're actually day to day, we're not crushing it at all. And so it's just like it's very easy to look at these people and get discouraged by like, oh, I'll never start because I'll never get there. And I'm not talented enough. I'm not smart enough. Or it's like the opposite's true, is like you see all the people like never start a business. Life sucked. I was depressed for 10 years. And you're like, oh, I don't want to start a business. I don't want to do this. Like, this is insane. But before social media, you never saw that. You were just like, you're in your own world and you're like, oh, this product's great. People liked it. Like my people on the farmer's market loved it. I'm just going to do it because why not? And you don't get all this other noise from like, comparing to other businesses and seeing people post their luxuries, lifestyles. But I will say that I do think it is, and people say this, I don't know if I fully agree, but I do think it's probably one of the best times to start, because what used to take 5 months to do can now take one day. Just on the simple stuff, like setting up an LLC. Uh, Food scientist can be ChatGPT. You don't need to hire one anymore. Um, Creating an operating system in Notion is essentially free at this point. Going deep into research is free, or cheap. Um, and you can just build things a lot faster, right? Like, especially in the SaaS world, like you can build a software, a platform, a scraper, a tool a lot faster than before. But I don't know if it makes it easier in general, because I do think there's so much more noise now, and there's so many more distractions, and capital is a lot thinner because not that it's a lot thinner, but there's so many more companies starting up now. So it's the same way. It's like, okay, yes, there's more opportunity, but now there's more challengers to the opportunity, and so there's probably more competitors. And so that's what, I don't know if it really is easier, but I do think like the startup cost is probably a lot lower than what it used to be.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, certainly we've talked too about how you guys have built so much of your business on AI in
Yeah,
2023. I mean, this is how the business started. And I think that's
yeah,
such a powerful tool today, but also back to your point on comparison, I think it makes it hard because answers
yeah,
are immediate. And, but I guess, George, before we let you go, like for people watching this, like what's the one thing, whether it's your 18-year-old self or a founder listening to this, like what is the thing you would tell them tomorrow, go do this?
Mm. Like, what's the most immediate thing I think they should do? Yeah, it's a good question. I think the best answer is like very subjective. And I would like to like have a consulting like talk
Talk
15 minutes.
15
Like,
minutes.
okay,
Like,
what's
okay,
going
what's
on? What's your business? Like, what do you need to solve? But I think generally, like, I think the first thing people should do whenever they're starting their business is like really figure out really figure out the customer you're serving. I think that's always like the North Star. Um, Especially for like tech, for consumer too, though, it's like if your product doesn't taste good, it doesn't mean anything. Um, if the people you're building for as a tech company, they're not going to pay for your product. They're not already paying for the problem that you're trying to solve for, and you're just building a better solution for, you're not going to have a business. And so I think like defining that first, and then once you do that, like immediately just start to build the solution for that person, right? And like keep testing with them of like, oh, like is this good? Is this better? Like, would you pay for this? Would you pay for that? And then like have them start to use it and see if it starts to integrate in the same way of like for consumer, like not even the tech, like if consumer, it's like, oh, like start doing a pre-order, start going on social media for free and saying, this is my product, go buy it. And if they don't buy it, then you have an issue. Like your product is probably not attractive enough to be bought. Now I say that with a caveat, like obviously, like, make sure you don't take 8 months like us to actually get the pre-orders to go. But, if we didn't do that, we might not be in the same position we are today. We might not know that we have a product worth building for. And I think that was exactly what we needed of like, we have a beef Cheeto, go pre-order it. And people actually did. And they put 50 to $100 down to get a product they've never tasted before. They don't know when it's going to be shipped. That's pretty amazing. I think that's pretty good testament to like, okay, this product deserves to exist. Now, can we build the right product? And that makes it a lot easier to like be like, okay, we have a North Star, and this is our customer, and this is what we need to build for. We just need to build the right thing. Um, that's what I was like. I don't know if that's a good answer, but that's probably what I would say.
I like the answer. I mean, starting, I'm a N of one, but start with the customer. I think you can't go wrong if you start with the customer and build for the customer, regardless if it's consumer, software, something else. But where can people buy buffs? Where can they learn more about your guys' story?
Yeah, I think best ways find us on Instagram. That's where we feel like we're very ingrained in the community there. So it's Eat Buffs, EATBUFFS, and then our website is eatbuffs.co. And yeah, find us there, pre-order there, launching very soon on TikTok and Amazon, and so and eventually won't say the names, but eventually, hopefully, a retailer near you, and it'll be an exciting place uh, for you to find our product. But yeah,
Love it, man. Well, congrats on the 5% of success so far. Can't wait for the next 95. And we'll have you back on how I built this later.
yeah, exactly, perfect. Thanks, Daniel.
Thanks, George.